Hey everyone, this is a Flat Phoenix Zone. I'm here at Bitcoin Amsterdam conference, and I have the honor and pleasure to host today His Royal Highness Prince Karađorđevic, Filip Karađorđevic, Prince of Serbia and Yugoslavia.
Yeah, Prince of Serbia now. When the monarchy was abolished, it was Yugoslavia. If the monarchy becomes reinstated, it will be Serbia. Yeah. So we're in that in-between zone right now, yeah.
Do you think the monarchy is going to be reestablished?
Why not?
It may happen?
It may happen.
You're working on it?
I'm not directly working it, but yeah, just hard money will help it get there.
Do the people of Serbia want it?
Yes.
Really?
I'd say a good portion would want it.
Wow.
Yes, because monarchy was a time of wealth. It was a time of people were... It was pre-communism. Yes, communism had its days during in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and people associate those days as the good days. But that was it's a fake story, because people don't know this, but Yugoslavia during the socialist times was doing more trade with the West than it was with the East. 60% of its GDP came through trade with the West.
Wow. So
it was propped up by a lot of US money and UK money, and to keep that project alive. Mm-hmm. Our family was ousted, I should say. We left the country, and the monarchy was abolished. 1943 is when my great-grandfather, King Peter II, the last king of Yugoslavia, left the country. The reason why my family was not protected by the West is because the West saw that it was easier to have control over Yugoslavia in a socialist state as a way of being closer to Russia. So they supported the partisans over the monarchy. Plus, they didn't want a monarchy, which was at the time Yugoslavia, which was like a small empire, and it was an asset-rich, independent, sovereign country. Under a socialist system, it was always going to fail, and it always needed the help of money from abroad to keep this project alive. And look what happened after. When Tito died in 1980, the whole country just disintegrated, and the blame is now is given to my great-grandfather, King Alexander I, who created Yugoslavia. They're saying that it's his fault because Yugoslavia fell apart.
That's the mainstream narrative now?
Yeah, people understand it's a bit more complex than that, really. But the reason why Yugoslavia was first created, it was because we were having growing threats from the Austrian-Hungarians, and we needed to unify our people. Mm-hmm. And it was first it was the kingdom of Serbs, Slovenes, and Croats and Slovenes, and that then incorporated the other 6 nations. So yes, the Bosnia, Montenegro, and Macedonia joined as well. And we, under the monarchy, people were free to live how they wanted to. All religions, ethnicities were free to do whatever they wanted to practice religions the way they wanted to, because they were economically more well off and acting more as sovereign individuals. Under a monarchy, the head of the state doesn't really, it's not that he doesn't care. He wants people to be happy. If his population are not happy, that means that the monarchy, there's a chance that the monarchy is not going to survive into the future. So a good monarchy makes sure that individual property rights are protected. Mm-hmm. And that is important. If people's property rights are protected, they know that they have a future, they can hand it down to their children, and they can make decisions that last generations. This is what freedom is about, and this is what we had under the Serbian monarchy and under the Yugoslav monarchy, is that we had this this free system. Basically, religions could get along together, not like they did today under a democratic or a republican system or democratic system, where democracies vote for one population over the next population.
Yes.
And then you end up having divisions over time.
And it's constant divide.
Constant divide and conquer. Constant divide and conquer.
And Philip, you are based in London or in Serbia?
I was living in London most of my life. Then in 2016, I met my wife to be. We married in 2017. She moved to London. I was living in London. We had our first son in 2018. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I was really getting back in touch with my Serbian roots. She's Serbian.
Okay.
So luckily she was speaking Serbian to my son. I have trouble speaking Serbian because my father and my mother's Brazilian princess. She spoke to me, even though she's Brazilian, she was brought up in Spain most of her life, and she spoke to me in Spanish. So Spanish is my mother tongue.
Oh.
But I speak to my son in English, and my wife speaks to him in Serbian. So then we moved to Serbia in 2020 when the whole pandemic happened.
Yes.
My job went online, and then within 2 weeks of that happening, I'm like, hey, we're moving to Serbia.
Why did you do that?
Because it was
at that time, like when COVID started.
Because I had my job, and it was a good job in London, and I could take it to Serbia.
Okay.
And I could work remotely from there. And I told my work when things are good again, when after lockdowns, when things open up again, I'll come back every now and then, and we'll have this hybrid work setup. And they agreed to it.
Okay.
But then when things were better and things opened up again, I didn't go back. And then I got a phone call, say, hey, Philip, when are you coming back? I'm kind of comfortable here.
So
all right,
it's
well,
pretty good for you in Serbia?
Yeah, but then it was great. Yeah, I didn't want to look back.
Mm-hmm.
I was planning to stay there for good. And then finally, when I went public about Bitcoin in 2022, in this talk show with my wife, when I was asked about crypto, and then I interrupted and say, no, it's more about Bitcoin and blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
That's when I ended up in Miami, and that's when I got offered the job at Jan 3 with Samson Mao.
Yes, so that's my
That
next
was my
question.
exit out of my fiat job into Bitcoin world.
Great. So you ditched your fiat job and now you have your Bitcoin job. So tell me, Bitcoin is a bottom-up grassroots movement, and Jan 3 takes the top-down approach.
Yes.
Through governments, right? And through politicians. Why? Why is that the way? I mean, my opinion about governments and politicians is that they're hard to trust them. But
that's the opinion of any Bitcoin like myself.
Yeah. So I want to hear your approach.
I think Bitcoin is, of course.
So maybe you first say what Jan 3 is doing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Jan 3 is a digital infrastructure company, Bitcoin infrastructure company.
Yeah.
Focused on expanding the Bitcoin network and accelerating hyper-Bitcoinization. Mm-hmm. We have technologies like we're releasing a new Aqua wallet, which is a Bitcoin-centric wallet with USDT on Bitcoin liquid network. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be big Latin America. We are opening up our Jan 3 financials, which is an OTC, plus other Bitcoin financial products like Bitcoin bonds, which will be helpful for mining, for raising capital for mining and things like that.
So different portfolio of products.
Yes, but the marketing, I say, the focus, the mission is to expand Bitcoin awareness. And yes, we all agree that Bitcoin is a bottom-up approach. Yes. It's a grassroots project. You can't change that.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to also come up with some new strategies, and one of that is a bit of top-down work as well. And speaking to politicians, that means speaking to politicians. Which sometimes you have to.
Which is easy for you, I guess. You have access to those.
More than others, yeah. Speaking to politicians, leaders, ministers, but also company leaders, high net worth individuals, influential people, and
all around the world.
All around the world, okay. and making them understand what Bitcoin is, and letting them know that there's this technology that's happening, that's growing, and it's they have the choice to be a part of it and to work with it. Or they might become irrelevant one day.
Well, it's good if they understand that. But if they want to come on board, what do you offer them to do together?
It depends. We're still very beginning stages conversations, but it'll be either mining, so finding out ways of how they can mine using their local energy to mine Bitcoin and put it onto their reserves.
Yes.
Or we will be white labeling our Aqua wallet, and so they can use that so people will go down the route of hopefully El Salvador, where that hopeful country would say, okay, let's give the choice to the people.
I wish more and more countries did that, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's the choice, the free market, which is what it's all about. Either you have government issue currency, or here's your private money, which is Bitcoin. The people choose. And over time, people will see that Bitcoin is superior.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's clear.
It's very clear. It really depends on each country.
So what have you managed to achieve so far with some of the countries that you've been speaking to, if at all? You said it's just the beginning, so...
It's just beginnings. We are quite middleway talks with one Latin American country, and we have... And then, some talks with some regional countries in the Balkan region. about not about adopting Bitcoin, but about energy mining projects. And then we have loads of other grassroots style projects happening where people are coming to us because we are known as the Bitcoin nation state adoption company. So we have a lot of people coming up to us saying how they can help. So we create a lot of Telegram groups out there, and communities, and these guys will work on trying to get introductions as well. And then if they want to bring us in to do conversations and to give some sort of legitimacy to the whole thing, then we do that. There's conversations happening all over. I mean, in Switzerland, there's some keen people that are working with the governments there. There's a lot of Swiss politicians that are being orange pilled at this as we speak.
And Switzerland is where the big money lies, right? This is
Switzerland, because Switzerland are very much on the private money issue. Like, you've seen what happened in Lugano. Out of all places, you know, Switzerland, they've got the one of the least inflations in the world, problems of inflation in the world. They've got the highest income per capita in the world. They're fine. They don't need Bitcoin. I mean, we all need Bitcoin, but they're the last country that needs Bitcoin. But Lugano has de facto adopted Bitcoin.
Are they a state, a country?
They're a canton.
Or they're a canton.
It's a Swiss system. It's cantons, different things.
And that's why they have to set their own.
Yes, to set their own
policies
their own policies. Like, that's why you have like the canton of Zug, which is very open to agnostic on crypto and technology, and they've always been they're a very tax advantaged canton for hedge funds. You'll find a lot of the world's hedge funds
are there
located in Zug, because of the tax advantage. A little bit now what Bukele is doing in El Salvador with his technology law, saying we're going to give any technology company 15 years of no taxation, just so they can come here, create jobs and grow technology, with the main focus on Bitcoin, of course, but other things like AI and X, Y, and Z.
So if I get you right, if any politicians or people who handle the public sector are listening to us and they're interested in bringing that conversation to their state or to their country, they should approach you.
We can reach out to Jan 3, and we can advise them about regulations. We can advise them of just education, regulation, mining, payment systems, anything. We have resources to cover all areas of Bitcoin.
Love it. Can you tell me a bit about your new foundation for Bitcoin education in Serbia?
Well, it's not really it's a foundation dedicated to Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's going to be a part of it.
Okay. So tell me what the foundation is.
It's called the Royal Foundation, Kraljevski Fundacija. We've got it now in Kraljevski Fundacija.rs, which is the Serbian domain. And we are the main focus of the foundation. My wife is her name is Danica, Princess Danica. My son is Stefan.
What's her name?
Danica.
Danica.
And she and I we've started this foundation with the help of a couple of other friends, and its aim is to create jobs and to stop the brain drain in our region. Brain drain has been a huge issue out of Serbia, out of Croatia, Slovenia, and these are the rich part of former Yugoslavia. But then, of course, Macedonia, Bosnia, and Serbia. We want people to stay in Serbia because Serbia is beautiful. We want them to stay in the region. The region is beautiful, and it can and will. There will be a lot of opportunities in the future. So we want people to stay there, and we want other people, the diaspora, to move back.
Yes.
So we want to work on projects that create jobs.
Okay.
And one aspect is that we're going to introduce is Bitcoin, and still trying to figure out how it can be worked in, because Bitcoin is it's not widely accepted in Serbia yet. People understand it. People are very cash orientated in Serbia, so they don't fully understand what Bitcoin is.
Is it because of lack of trust?
Lack of trust. They think it's too good to be true. But they like their cash and they think that's great. Wait until that cash is taken, wait till they change the cash, or wait till that inflation really erodes their capital, wait till the banks start to blow up, which could happen anytime. Hopefully not. But it's with a bit of education, people understand that there's something better than cash and better than gold. And it takes the best of gold, the best of cash, the best of digital money, and that is Bitcoin. And that's what we're going to do, is working on financial literacy. And that's something that this world, our fiat world has done. It's made us dumb about finance. You don't get taught this in
The
school.
common person in the street
No, we don't know.
has no idea how it's
know.
built and designed. Me neither. Until I started researching actively, I knew nothing.
It took me working in the financial world to know a little bit how finance works, about how to balance your accounting books, and how all that stuff works, and all the jargon and all that stuff.
Yes.
It's done on purpose to be
Of
complicated,
course.
when it could be really simple. And Bitcoin simplifies that.
And that's your mission.
The mission is education of simplifying Bitcoin. There's a lot of good startups, projects already happening, like Mi Primer Bitcoin in El Salvador. I met with a couple of people here doing some other Bitcoin educational programs. There's the Looking Glass as well. There's all these projects happening. So we'll need to figure out how we're going to do ours, who we're going to work with and things. And our foundation is still very early days, but it will get going.
It's coming together.
It's coming together.
That's
Our
very
family
exciting.
is growing as well. We're expecting our second child in next month. So November, that is. I don't know when this episode will come out.
Very exciting.
So I'll be a little bit preoccupied for the rest of the year.
For understandable
first.
reasons. Yes. You were talking about when you came out with being a Bitcoiner at
When I
2022.
came out the
Why
Bitcoin
did you
closet.
not do this before? And when you did it, what was the reaction?
It depends which crowd.
The Serbian and then the
Certainly.
rest.
Well, there's
I
certain.
mean, maybe that's the reason why you didn't, is it? The Serbian.
No, well, I became a maximalist in 20. As I think I told you, I became maximal around 2020. That's when I was really understood that something really wrong was going on in the world, and I started studying more. Read books like the Bitcoin Standard and 21 Lessons by Gigi and those sort of books, and joined Bitcoin Twitter. I learned a lot there, and that's what made me become a big maximalist. 2021, I was a maximalist, but closet, not really talking about it not talking about publicly at all, just still doing my public appearances in Serbia, doing what I do with my wife, traveling around, doing events here and there, the usual stuff. But it wasn't until the program, that TV show, the evening show, that I became public. And why then? It's because it just happened to be. And I think it turned out to be a really good moment, because I came out like out of nowhere.
And
It just was like a surprise.
Huh?
And he surprised me as well, because we met a few nights before to talk about, to get to know each other.
Yes.
And the host, that is.
Yes.
He found out that I'm into Bitcoin. But that was it, you know. We talked about loads of other things. But it wasn't until when he was recording us, then he interrupted me and says, "It's now a good time to talk about crypto." And then that's when.
And look at us now here in a Bitcoin conference.
That
1 year later,
that
right?
led to me speaking to people like yourself.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I love that you did that. What's if there is one, what's the path of reducing skepticism and objections to Bitcoin in the red pill audience? People that have woken up already
Yes.
to some other agendas that are happening around the world, but they still don't get the financial.
This is a good question for Serbs, actually.
Because they may be
Serbs are
quite awake because of their history,
Very red
right?
pill, because of their history, because they've gone through world wars, local wars, genocide, third worst hyperinflation in the 90s in the world. Third worst.
I have a Croatian friend. That's what he says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lots of people lost their savings. I have friends of ours whose parents lost their savings in the 90s. It's horrible. Also sanctions as well. All this, they've been through everything. They've gone through the propaganda of communism, socialism. So now,
So can they smell it from afar?
They smell the propaganda these days from far. That's why, you know, vaccine uptake wasn't very high in Serbia.
Was it low? Was
Very
it
low, nice and low,
Great.
nice and low.
Okay.
The boosters were an absolute disaster.
I'm very happy to hear
Me
that.
too, me too. But as you say, they are a red pill nation. But
Yes.
so that's
They're
why
still skeptical.
I mean, a highly skeptical nation, and that's a good thing.
Make you think.
I'm hoping it won't take a crisis for them to understand. I'm hoping it won't take something like what some of the Canadian truckers had,
Yes.
people who supported them in Canada last year, and freezing of bank accounts. I hope it won't take a bank run, because we do have a fractional reserve banking system there.
Yes.
You know, capital allocations are at 2 or 7%, depending on the duration of cash. But that trust could disappear in a second.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it won't take a shock for them to realize. I'm hoping what it will take is more confident on people like myself and other prominent figures in the Serbian world, celeb world, or whatever like that.
Yes,
Influentials. I'm talking about one person in general, Djokovic, to be my
that was my next question.
Supporting me.
Do you think he will go into it?
I need to have a conversation with. I don't know him.
You don't know him yet?
I've met his family, but I never met him. But I know that our paths will cross. I know the stars will align, our paths will cross.
Well, we know his values, right? We know this guy stands for freedom.
Yeah. And I'm not too sure if he owns Bitcoin or not, if he understands it or not, but I think he'll get it if he does.
I'm sure he'll get it.
And I think his next calling in life, I'm not there to tell him what to do, but I think his next calling in life is like, okay, you've got this huge following, freedom movement. You are one of the biggest freedom voices in the world. There's Bitcoin. And this is what Bitcoin does. This is what Bitcoin's about. This is what Bitcoin can do. This is like, and I think he, out of everyone, will not care about the image effect. Like, I took a hit when I went out and went about Bitcoin. Yes, the Bitcoin crowd, open arms.
Of course.
Yeah, some people are like, oh yeah, but he's just another authoritarian character. He's just, yeah, I get that.
That's what most people would think without knowing.
Not rulers. Fine, I get that. But I think with Djokovic, I think he'll get it. I really hope he'll get it.
Massive public hug. Massive, if he does that. I'm sure it will be huge. I pray for this with you.
And I don't think he cares about, because his image, he already, I say damaged. He already said no to the vaccines.
He already showed us that he's willing to sacrifice.
He's willing to sacrifice
anything,
glory,
everything.
Everything.
And I love that.
And it paid off.
It paid off. Time.
Yeah.
Even people who were like against him when he did what he did during the last 3 years have now turned around.
And said, well done. Respect.
Yeah, because that's what I learned with time, that people actually find, even if it takes them time, they find respect towards people that stand in their morals and in their values and don't give up.
Exactly. Very similar parallels to Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
Yeah, where he was very anti-Vietnam War and stuff. And he was hated during the time.
Yeah.
He was there demonized by all the world, the people who support. But then 6 years later, he becomes the most celebrated athlete afterwards. So this is what's happening with Djokovic.
Wow, I really hope Djokovic steps in.
I hope so. I don't think he cares about the decisions. I think he'll
encourage you to try.
I'll try. He makes the decision of being on the right side of history. So
yes.
Hopefully he'll make the decision to be on Bitcoin.
Yes, that will have the biggest impact on the world's population, because the money they use directly impacts their way of life and their quality of life. So if he goes into that, it will have immense
fan
impact.
base grew by millions when he stood his ground in the Australia Open. The way they treated him,
yes,
his fan base grew by millions.
Wow.
I mean, and he has that following, and a lot of people look up to him and respect his opinion. I don't have that following. I don't know. People look up to me. Serbs look up to me. He's like, oh, look at the crazy Bitcoin prince.
Hey, Phil, you're on the right path.
Not all, but I have that at the moment. Yeah.
I think you're on the right path.
Magical internet money Bitcoin prince guy. Yeah.
Well, putting that aside and just paraphrasing on what we're talking about, personally, I'm experiencing very hard time right now because of people naming and shaming me and ridiculing me for voicing my views and my values about what's happening in Israel with Palestine.
Of course.
And mostly the criticism is from within Israel about this. And so
that's tough.
It's very, very tough to stand in front of whatever's been thrown at you in order to silence you, try and make you behave differently, do something that you don't want to do. But it takes immense courage to just stand in, go inside and embody your values and your morals and stay true to your word. I was
very humbled by because I just got to learn about you the other day that you wanted to interview me, and then I followed you. Then this shit happened. Pardon my French. In the region. and I saw what you had to say. Very brave, but correct. And wow, really was impressed. And I can imagine the criticism you'll have for saying those things, those words of truth. That truth hurts people.
Yeah, it does.
People are so divided and so misguided that they're so blind by what the truth is.
Right. And what I'm advocating for is that it's okay to hold complex positions and not take sides. It's okay
Yes, exactly.
to think that this is wrong, but there is a distinction to it because something there can be good, like human lives in the other side. And we want to save and protect another group.
Yes.
And that's you have to hold this complexity.
It's all,
and just don't be dragged into hate.
Don't get dragged into hate.
Or
Precisely.
to polarity so quickly. That's my...
And now scrolling through Twitter right now, the hate, the picking sides that we're seeing, it's horrible, heartbreaking to see.
It just perpetuates more hate, more war. And if we're talking about that, what's the biggest problem that you think Bitcoin can solve? Because for me, it's war and violence, but what is it for you?
I think war and violence is very topical right now. Yes, the incentive structure.
But can you explain why for the people that don't know Bitcoin really
well?
Well,
first you understand why fiat encourages war. Because fiat, essentially, to put it very rudimentarily, is why do war-torn countries or countries that go through war end up having hyperinflation? It's because they print the shit out of money to fund wars.
Yes.
Because they can. And that leads to death and destruction. And it's just pure evil. Bitcoin stops that. Because Bitcoin, you can't print Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a 21 million cap, meaning that its issuance is programmable for the rest of eternity. Well, not eternity, until there's no more Bitcoins mined. But anyway, you cannot create more Bitcoin. That means those who are in position of power, the states, and hopefully these states they will then have to be careful of what they spend their money on. So they're not going to go into and spend it on rash decisions like going into war.
Yes.
That's one of the main arguments of why Bitcoin will create a more peaceful society.
That's how I see it as well. Yes. So
and also
I invite the people that don't know Bitcoin well enough to start looking into it.
And also, why is fiat? What is backing fiat? Fiat is backed by trust, but also what is backed by that trust is countries like America flexing their muscles.
Yes.
Saying, look what we can do. That's how strong we are. So this is why we are the reserve currency. We have stations, army bases all around the world, flexing muscles, showing off what we are able to do. And that's why the dollar has got that dominance.
That is so symbolic.
Yeah.
You know, that show of violence, that show of power everywhere.
Exactly.
And I would wish that our world looked differently.
And the world will work differently when people will start to adopt Bitcoin more and more. Anil Patel, who writes this book, basically that when you have something like Bitcoin and now available, and it's the best money in the world, the hardest, the fastest because of Lightning, 21 million cap, all this sort of stuff. And if it's available, people will go towards that. So they will look at the competition and the competition will be meaningless. And so all money will then tend to one and tend to what is the best. And now that's Bitcoin.
Wow. I really hope that that's the direction the world will start to take, because we need a change.
We do need a change.
With what's happening right now around the world. It feels like we're in a very crazy time around the world.
And I hope you and your family and your loved ones are safe in Israel, really.
Thank you very much.
My thoughts and prayers to all the innocent lives, all the civilians and stuff on both sides. Because we are about peace on all sides.
Yes. Good luck today with this conference.
Thank you very much.
And if people want to follow you or Jan3, where do they go?
You can follow me on Twitter. And then there's Jan3.com on Twitter.
So you'll give me the link and I'll put it in the notes.
And Jan3 on Instagram.
Is there anything else that you want people to know?
Just keep on spreading the education of Bitcoin. You know, go and speak to everyone. Go and speak to your mother. Go speak to your brother, sister. Go speak to your friends.
buy them a wallet as a Christmas present.
Yes, exactly. Just learn a little bit about Bitcoin. Learn a little bit about the history of money. Go buy the Bitcoin Standard. Go buy the Little Bitcoin Handbook.
Yes.
Go buy. There's so many good resources. Go to hope.com. It's that easy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Efrat.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.